What's up, guys? This is DOMB Universe 3 seconds after getting done with my reaction to episode 2 of Golden Wind. Now, I'm going to talk about part 2 of JoJo. Head off the link in the description below to watch the reaction. And if you feel like you want to know my journey of loving this fantastic series known as JoJo, please stick around. I'm also going to be talking about the intro a little bit. Well, not heavily in detail. There's a lot of other YouTubers that can go heavily in detail on the intro. I'll just say what this intro is in accordance to how I feel about other intros that JoJo has gotten in the past, and that's about it. But first things first, part 2. Part 2 of JoJo as a whole, people say that part 2 is the main part that you could say you could skip, and I couldn't disagree more. Like, part 2, it was one of my favorite parts until I got to part 5. Like, it was like number 1 to number 2 on the spot of being my favorite part of JoJo until I got to part 5. And that's mainly because Joseph is a great Joestar. He defined like the personality quirks that that other JoJos will be receiving in other parts. Like Jonathan was like the plank of wood that could go other places, but he just kind of stayed in that one segment. You didn't really like him, but you didn't hate him either. He's just sort of in a neutral stand base that he's a nobleman type of gentleman dude who can kick your ass, and I love that. But Joseph was the quirky, funny, no nonsense character, but still smart. He's like Bakugo if the anger of Bakugo was actually just put to silliness. They're both, Bakugo and Joseph are smart, calculated individuals. It's just that they have this quirk that makes it seem like they're not, and that's one of their biggest strengths. People think Bakugo's a hothead, but then they get their ass handed to them, not realizing that he's actually very powerful, very skilled, and has a very interesting set of abilities established him to beat you. Same thing goes for Joseph. His wild, out of nowhere personality of goofing around most of the cases throws his enemies off guard, thinking that he's an idiot. But in actuality, he's been getting them into a web of just strategery since the beginning of the battle. And I love that. And so when it comes to like the JoJo, he's one of my favorite JoJos. I was happy to see him. And when you have a JoJo that just pulls out a Tommy gun and just starts shooting away, and then you just start to question, where did he get the Tommy gun? And you gotta love this guy. You gotta love this guy. And how Joseph implements the ripple and the overall structure of the part itself. I need to actually talk about just the part and just talk about Joseph once I have that own video as in of itself. But as a part as a whole, when you have the villains come in, to put it blatantly with me and Josh's viewpoints, Josh loves the Pillarmen more than he liked Dio when watching part 1 and part 3. And I like Dio. I love Dio. And I will say the strengths and weaknesses of Dio and the strengths and weaknesses of the Pillarmen are there. You only, to me, only 50% of the Pillarmen are enjoyable to watch. The other 50% are just kind of there, and they're not as impactful as the other 50%. The 50% I'm talking about that didn't really do much for me would be AC/DC and the first Pillarman that showed up in the Nazi camp place, with von Stroheim. I don't remember his name because, well, I just don't. So I'm sorry about that. But AC/DC and that guy, they didn't do much. I like / hated AC/DC's ability to, you know, have boiling blood and the fingertip. No, it's an interesting concept, creative idea. Did not like watching it though. That's just that. But then you have the other 50% that pretty much just nailed the part for me, and that being Wamu and Cars. Wamu and Cars as antagonists are one of the better highlights to part 2, because Wamu, while he is the bad guy, he is an honorable, respectful dude who is willing to do whatever it takes to have a nice, fair, and honestly good fight. Him and Joseph's dynamic is fantastic, and the part in of itself keeps to an interesting flow. While part 1 for me felt all over the place in a sense, it's like, all right, in the beginning of part 1 you get the introductions, and you have Dio, and you have Dio's introduction, and then you have a time skip, and then that time skip, then there's now Dio's a vampire, and now Dio does this, and Dio does that, then Dio gets beaten, and then other things happen. Dio comes up, he summons a few people, and they're just like that, and then Dio gets beaten again by getting his head chopped off. Dio's not dead, and then all of a sudden he's on a boat, and then the boat's blowing up. All right, all over the place. But in part 2, it's like, here's your Joestar. Here's what he does. This is his personality. This is what happens. Vampires are coming back thanks to the past implications of what happened with Dio. Then you see, and then they already hyped up these Pillarmen guys. These guys trapped in these stone things. They already hyped them up. Then, as soon as they come out, these are your main bad guys. Boom, and here's the structure of it. You have to train, and you got to get the very thing that they're trying to get, that being the gem. And it just seemed very contained, but also, you know where they were going. You see your main bad guys, you know where they are, you know how powerful they are, you see how far you need to get to be trained enough to beat them. And then you have Lisa showing up being the mentor teacher and being whenever someone says, hey, do you know any like strong female characters? Like Lisa's pretty strong. so on and so forth with that. And that's why I like the structure of part 2. When you get the main Pillarmen down, then you get Wamu, and then you have the betrayal of Cars from Wamu. Betrayal of Wamu from Cars. There you go. You really got like Cars is like a no-nonsense character himself. He will do what he can to preserve and also help himself. But as soon as he finds a weak link, he'll take it out to get what he wants, and he gets what he wants. He becomes Ultimate Cars, and bar none, becomes the strongest villain in almost all of JoJo. It's very debatable because people have been making videos saying that Ultimate Cars can beat Dio, Ultimate Cars can beat Jotaro, Ultimate Cars can beat like even like it's very I don't know if they were talking about Yoshikage Kira, because how does your body adapt to being turned into a bomb? Like how does that work? That's my question. How do your body adapt? Like, he turns your body into a bomb, he blows you up. How do you come back from that? How? And so on and so forth with other characters. So Ultimate Cars was a very, very like broken threat, and I could tell that Araki was kind of like, okay, how do I beat this guy? and it was very contrived, but it was a way, and there it goes. So as for the part as a whole, I find it necessary to watch, mainly because part 1 kind of built up this thing, and now part 2's ending that off. And and what I mean by that, part 1 introduced the mask. You're like, well, this is the mask. Where did it come from? Who made it? Why does it turn people into vampires? What is the purpose of this thing, and why does it exist? Part 2 is here to explain that. It brings in interesting characters and an interesting dynamic, an interesting Joestar, and it answers those questions while also leaving it there. I don't think we ever see the mask again, like, at all. The mask becomes irrelevant, period, now, after that thing. Because I think it gets destroyed after Cars become Ultimate Cars. So, yeah. And then we get to part 3, where everything just pretty much goes, like, to the hills of, part 1 and part 2 means almost absolutely nothing now. Almost absolutely nothing. But it kind of reminds me of, something that is, like, right there. Something I'm pointing at. Homestuck. Once you start reading Homestuck and start reading, like, the pages and stuff like that, and start reading Act 1 and Act 2 and Act 3, you start to see that many of the things they introduce in those things are barely mentioned, barely brought up again, really brought it. So it's just the common evolution of storytelling. Sooner or later, you're going to get to a point where a lot of things in the beginning are not going to be really brought up or really, mean anything later down the line, in the long run. So I just take that as take that as it comes, and there you go. That's pretty much all I got to say about part 2, without getting into heavy details with the characters and everything you get. I didn't really talk about Caesar because I'm going to really save Caesar's talk with the side characters of parts, because I know this series is going to be long, so I'm going to have a lot of redirects to talk about things. So I'm going to talk about the intro to this a little bit. I'm not going to be like so in depth, like, oh, this means this, and this is a reference to that, and that, and that, and that. You have other videos for that. What I'm going to say here is this is my second to third favorite intro. My first favorite intro is always going to be Sono Chino Sadame, being part 1's intro. The song with the visuals, with the overall thing, that entire thing, made that for me. Loved it. It's great. The second one has to go with either Breakdown, the final intro to JoJo Part 4, or Stand Up in JoJo Part 3. It's really up in the air with those. But yeah, this is definitely on the third to second tier. Fighting Gold, it's interesting. Now, the one thing that me and Josh have been doing, I think I mentioned this before, but let me mention it in an actual JoJo video. Me and Josh have been taking Sono Chino Sadame, the song, and putting it over other JoJo intros. And I issue not. Most of the intros match 1-to-1 with Sono Chino Sadame, making it seem that Sono Chino Sadame is the golden standard for JoJo openings, and it's hilarious to me. Not just JoJo openings, because we did the heinous thing and the unorthodox thing, and putting this song over other intros. We put it over Naruto intros. We put it over Bleach intros. We put it over One Piece intros. We put it over many different intros. Many of which, when I saw them, like, there's no way this is gonna fit. But it fit. And this is how, notice, and now I'm going to say this. Notice this in any intro you're going to see now. Alright? I'm pretty sure most people know the structure of intros. Alright. You get the opening. The opening could be somber, slow, and introducing certain key elements of the particular thing you're about to watch. And that thing could be, you know, showing the silhouette of characters, showing the characters do something, showing the characters running for some reason, or whatever, and then doing that. And then you get a sequence where things are starting to build up, and then when that build up is done, you get a bunch of action sequences. And those action sequences just continue on until you go back down into the conclusion, and then you get back into the stable area. That's the structure of almost every intro that me and Josh have noticed. And I think that's just how intros are made. Now I know how to make my anime intro if I ever get an anime myself. Now I just know. If it doesn't match the Sono Chino Sadame, it is not a good intro. I know this now. It's good with Mob Psycho 100's intro. It's good with so many intros. And One Punch Man's intro. So many intros. It's amazing. So I really wish I could show you guys, but I can't because, you know, copyright. If I just, you know, upload a video saying, hey, here's Sono Chino Sadame over a JoJo intro, YouTube's gonna copyright strike that to hell. So you just have to take my word for it or do it yourself. Take an anime intro, download it, whatever, put it in Sony Vegas, put it on whatever downloading software you have. Take Sono Chino Sadame, the song, put it over the intro, and see for yourself. Do that for as many anime things as you want. Sometimes it won't fit, sometimes it will. Just know that many of the parts, just for some reason, just click. Exactly. I might do a thing where I like edit it in at the end of one of my JoJo reactions. And since I'm going to be posting up on BitChute anyway, I might do that. But it really depends. That's just like a funny thing. But I will say, Fighting Gold matches perfectly, almost better than the actual intro of part 1 itself, and that's scary to me. So yeah, that's pretty much all I gotta say. This has been good, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.